Right now, protesters who realize the math is not going their way, hope springs eternal that they might be able to flip a Jeff Flake or someone else who's already committed to a yes, might be a no. That looks unlikely. It looks like Republicans have secured enough votes, even though they're going to have the Vice President of the United States on hand, should he be needed in case something like that materializes. But they're not pleased with this. And then the question is, how do we all get back together after this? To Fox News contributor Kat Timpf, Catalina Magazine publisher Kathy Abreu, and GOP strategist Jen Kerns. Easier said than done, Jen. What do you think?
Yeah, I've got two words for you, Neil. Mob rule. You look at the Democratic Party this week and really throughout the year, whether it's Maxine Waters saying we should get together in groups and push back on people, or Cory Booker this week who said we ought to get up in senators' faces. You have former Senate staffers doxing the personal home addresses and cell phone numbers and potential children's information of these senators. I think it'll be quite some time before everyone gets back together. But the unintended effect, I think, the Democrats have had here is they've overreached. And we've seen that now in the poll numbers. We've seen the voter intensity closing the gap here. Republicans have gained 10 points just this week with this. And the reason is we look at this and we see if Brett Kavanaugh could go through this, presumably innocent man until proven guilty, if he can go through this, all of us can. And we are all Kavanaugh now. And I think that's why you're seeing the polling numbers move on that needle of voter intensity.
Well, that's always something that could change. But Kathy, do you think, and this has been said a lot, that Democrats overplayed their hand?
They were not right on this one. 2 weeks ago, they should have just gone with the vote. There was no need to go forward. It didn't look right. They had the numbers. He was going to be confirmed. So there was no need for this two weeks of division in the country. It wasn't good for the country. It's not good for the country. He's going to get confirmed.
By the way, Susan Collins in Maine had argued that whoever released this letter, she doesn't believe that it was Dianne Feinstein. She was trying to provide some cover there. Right. What did you make of that?
It was what she said was so moving. I think everyone,
someone on that committee did, or someone associated.
It's unfortunate, though, that they went ahead with it. It's so unfortunate because it divided the country. It didn't do anything. There's a place for protest. There's a time and a place. This is okay. What's happening today? I mean, they're having their voices heard, but disrupting the hearings and making fools out of themselves. It didn't work for 2 weeks, and
but Neil, we do know one thing. We do know one thing Dianne Feinstein did do, and that was she withheld the letter from Dr. Ford. She had it for nearly 2 months, sat on that. I think the first order of business for the Senate after they confirm Judge Kavanaugh today is to censure Dianne Feinstein and to conduct an investigation on which member of her staff may have leaked this letter. Those two things.
Be careful what you wish for, right? Because you already have a number of Democrats, Congressman Nadler among them, looking in the House if they were to gain the House, and he would run the Judiciary Committee, of pursuing an investigation of, presumably by then, Associate Justice Kavanaugh. So the back and forth, where does it end?
I don't think it's going to end, unfortunately. I think that this is going to continue as we're seeing it continue with these protesters out in the street. We already know that they have the votes. We already know that he's going to be confirmed. And yet people aren't letting this go, and they're not going to let this go. And if the Dems do take control of the Senate, I think that they would potentially try to impeach him. I don't think that this is going to be over anytime soon.
What I wonder about is the same behavior they used to say that a lot of Trump loyalists would exhibit, violent in your face and getting in politicians and liberals outside their homes, et cetera, has actually been the other way around, where you have a lot of liberals who get in the face of those senators who are going to vote.
Well, both sides seem to,
But you would have to say throughout this process it's been very, you would have to say it's been unusually heated here, in your face, even physically threatening here. I mean, to a degree that would make you uncomfortable.
Well, the country's been insane, I think, since we have this reality star who became president.
Well, wait a minute. Whatever you say about the reality star became president, he did become president. And wait. Now. I'm just saying, then, what would be the difference then between activity you associated with his loyalists versus what you see exhibited now, where they're chasing down senators, abusing them in restaurants, following even commentators?
no difference. The Tea Party was guilty of so many things. The Tea Party, they were doing...
Tea Party never threw anyone out of a restaurant. Tea Party never chased anyone off the subway. Tea Party never did any of that.
They did many controversial things.
Nothing approaching this.
Oh, we're not.
Nothing approaching this.
Well, the Tea Party, the birther movement, things were getting out of hand.
All right, well,
you have protesters in Portland laying in the middle of the street, blocking traffic. I'm all about your right to protest.
Right,
I think it's great you can do that in this country and not get your head chopped off. But you have people laying in the middle of the street. I kind of feel like you can do what you got to do until you're stopping me from getting where I need to go. Whenever protesters lay in the middle of the street, I hope I have the guts one day to walk up to them and say, you're making everyone hate you.
Well, but you alluded to something interesting at the outset, that this is narrowing the gap, the preference gap, between Republicans and Democrats and who takes over Washington, and we've seen that. It fluctuates wildly. In a midterm election, normally it's the wrath, the hate that gets out to vote. And so you could argue just the opposite of what you said, that vote is what comes out and benefits Democrats who feel this process was rigged, you say?
Well, typically that is the case, Neil, and we saw that on September 18th. A poll was leaked that was presented to the Republican National Committee that said Republicans this year didn't feel that there was much at stake, and that was an exact quote that was in the poll. That has changed, as we've seen with the Kavanaugh attacks. That has significantly changed.
But now that he's going to make it.
Now that he's going to make
will that still have the fire?
Yes, the coalition will stick together for the next 30-some days because we have seen
30-some days is an eternity.
It is.
You got to keep that anger.
Nope, I don't think they'll be angry.
No,
I know some Italian families who can keep it going that long. I don't know a lot of people can keep that going that long.
I believe so. You look at some states, they have early polling. A lot of voting is already underway. In some states, in the next week or two, tens of millions of votes will already be cast. This will be very fresh in their minds. And here's the real irony. All of these protests you see are not organic. We do know now that George Soros funding is behind it.
No,
look at the group Demand Justice.
No, we don't. No. We haven't seen any cleared or canceled checks. We don't know that for sure.
No, the Washington Post said that.
I'm not here to play left or right on this. We don't know whether George Soros is sponsoring anything. What we do know is that the vote is now a mere hours away. And what we do know is that Democrats risk hurting their image. And that's from a Democrat. I'll explain after this.